Good day, folks. This is Greg Judy at Green Pastures Farm today. I just wanted to take a few minutes and talk to the subject of getting started on your own successful, profitable grazing operation. And, I see a lot of stuff online and a lot of people out there trying to do kind of what we're doing here. And we are centered here in central Missouri. We do run a 100% grazing operation here. We don't do any tillage. We don't have any tillage tools or equipment like that. We are 100% grazers. And so it's, when people talk about getting started on a farm, one of the first things they think about, I need to go build a barn. And I wanted to cover that a little bit. You don't need a barn, number one. The animals don't ask you to build them a barn. That's you, and that's what a lot of people are being told they need to do. I mean, if you go online and look at some of the stuff that people are doing, it's just like, why? Those animals didn't ask you to build that, monstrosity of a barn or whatever. And all that's doing is taking any income that you could possibly make from your cow herd, and it goes in the payment that you had to go get a loan to build that barn. And I don't think you should go in debt for anything unless you're going to borrow money to possibly buy livestock, and then get out of debt. As soon as they have their first calf crop, and every time you can, pay that debt off and get out from underneath that loan. Especially today, I just heard yesterday a guy said he got an operating loan, and it was 8.75% interest. So gone are the days of 0%, 1%, 2%, whatever. Those days are history. And if you're going to start an operation today and you put your big nest egg into a barn, and even worse, go borrow money to build that barn, you just sunk yourself into a hole. That's all you've done. And that barn is not going to make any payments for you at all. It isn't. You're not going to make any money off that barn. Why would you do something stupid like that? It just doesn't make any sense to me. You'd be a lot better off to take that 100 or 200,000, whatever it is, 50,000. I don't care if it's 30,000, whatever. Put that into livestock. Livestock eat green blades of grass, and at the end of the day, those green blades of grass will turn into a new baby calf that grows up, and you've got something to sell. Folks, for you to make it on the farm, you got to have cash flow. And building a barn right off the start is not the way to generate cash flow. It's a way to take money out of your pocket that you might possibly make on the farm off the sale of a cow or a steer or a bull or a sheep or whatever. It's going to go to make the payment on that stupid barn you built. Doesn't make any sense. That's stupid. Don't do that. Okay, I started out back, a long time ago, and I can sympathize with these people because I was that person, okay? I thought you needed a barn. I thought you needed a tractor. I thought you needed all this stuff. And luckily, within 2 years, first of all, I didn't put a lot of money into a barn. I had an old one I kind of fixed up, but I sure as heck didn't build a new one. But I did buy a tractor, and I bought a baler and a rake and a mower. And after 2 years, I sold those puppies. They were gone. Every time I used them, I had to pay money to use them. They broke down. And those cows are out there eating grass and giving me calves, and they weren't breaking down. So my good friend from Ian always said, how many calves do you see kicked out behind that tractor when you use it? Is it popping out calves? Absolutely not. So invest your money in something that eats a green blade of grass, and you will come out every single time. Okay? I don't care what the markets do, the prices. If you stay focused on grass and get you some water out there, first of all, don't even get started until you have a perimeter fence up. Don't bring animals onto your farm until you have a perimeter fence. And number two, you got to have some forage. If you've got a crop field out there you just took crop off of, there's nothing for them to eat, and you bring cattle in that or sheep or whatever, you're going to be stuck. you got to feed hay. And it's going to take a couple years to get a good sod on that crop field. So just because you're tired of, let's say you're tired of losing money on crops, or you're just tired of cropping, whatever, and you want to get out of that deal, don't immediately go out and buy animals and throw on a crop field. There's nothing out there for them to eat. And with hay prices where they are today, you're never going to come out. You're going to have way more money in hay in them than what the animals are worth. So get your fence in, your perimeter, get you a few water points. If you bought it, I'd trench in some water out there. If you're leasing it, you can do above ground water, or if you got a smaller operation, I know people that carry water. You know, they have a tank in the back of their truck or tractor, and if you've only got 3 or 4 animals, it's not a big deal. But if you got 100 animals and you're carrying water to them, that could be a real big deal. You'll get burnt out on that pretty darn quick. Water's heavy, and you don't want to be carrying it very far. But for a few animals, especially sheep or goats, they don't drink much water compared to cows. So you could absolutely get your perimeter fence in, and even if you don't have the money to get the water out there, you could make that work short term with a goal of, you know, down the road, you want to get established water. But back to this barn thing. It'll take you out. You go out there and sink your nest egg in a barn. That just absolutely hammers any possibility that you have of cash flow going back into the farm to actually build parts of the farm that are going to pay you something. Number 1, fence. Fence harvests solar energy. Barns do not. I'll say that again. Fence harvest solar energy. Barns do not. What I mean by that, without fence, you can't control your animals. You've got to be able to control your animals. You don't want to go out there and do the Columbus method and give them the whole blooming farm and then run out of grass. They've ate it to the ground, and your animals are thin, they're wormy. You made them eat off the ground. They've ingested a bunch of parasites. They're getting out. Your neighbors are mad at you. No. Fence, you got to be able to control them. So you want to move them. You want to move them daily, if you can, around that farm to give your land time to grow back. Okay, and so fence is number 1, and then number 2, of course, you got to water them. But a barn doesn't come into that equation anywhere. It doesn't. I mean, you may have a bragging point out there to show you, look at my nice fancy barn, or maybe it makes you feel good to look at it, but then when you open up your pocketbook and you see it's empty, and you got a big old payment coming in your mailbox every month to make a payment on that barn. You know, if I had to make a payment, I'd want that payment to go toward livestock. At least I know of livestock. They're out there working for me. They're out there right now behind me. They're out there. It's a nasty, cold morning, rainy morning out here. It's brutal out here. You can see my breath. Okay, it's cold out here. Those cattle don't care. They're not in a barn. It rained last night. They're wet. They got a winter haircoat on. They're just fine. They've got a draw down there. They've got some trees they can get in if they want to, but they don't need a barn. They don't. And I see that's one of the biggest mistakes people make starting out. So don't do that, folks. If you're just starting out, you've already decided this area you're going to doze it off and make you a pad there and get you a barn. Take that money and go build you some perimeter fence. Buy you some animals. If you have grass, get the grass growing first. Don't buy the animals until you have grass. Because you get excited and like, well, Greg said to build fence and get some animals. Well, no, Greg said to build fence, get forage. Make sure you have forage out there for them to eat, and then get your animals after you have some way of getting water to them. Folks, this grazing business, it's a wonderful business to be in because we're harvesting solar energy. What I mean by that is the cows are taking their tongues like that. They're ripping it around a piece of grass. They bust it off. They bring it into their mouth. They chew it up, and they produce another calf, and they put fat on their back and meat, and that's something you can sell. That generates cash flow. Okay, that's your target. Because without cash flow, I don't care if you want to save the world. You're not going to. because you're not going to be on that farm because you're not making a profit. Profit is not a dirty word. It absolutely is not. And I see so many people that, oh, you talk about money, well, yeah. If you don't make any money, you're not going to be on the farm. You're going to be in town somewhere at a factory job or in the government welfare line or something. You're not going to be on the farm. So profit is a necessity if you want to change your environment and make a living on the farm. Making a living means not, sucking off the government, subsidies. You've got to be able to do it with the animals, the landscape, and you can do that. How's the best way to make money on a farm? Well, waiting for an answer. Okay, I'm talking into a camera. The best way to make money on a farm is not to spend money. Okay? That's the secret between you and me. Don't be spending a lot of money, especially when you start out. It will take you out. Learn to do without. Learn to do without. Maybe you don't need that vacation to the Canary Islands or, the Philippines or that going on that cruise or whatever. You have got to conserve your equity, folks. Get you a nest egg. Keep adding a little bit to it. Every time you get a little extra, pretty soon you'll have enough money there. You can do some of these things that I've been talking about. I'm going to give you all some hope here. Folks, in 1999, I was in the middle of a 6-year divorce. And I was working in town. I could see my farm was going to be history. And I still have the checkbook where I had $8. That's right. I'm not ashamed of it. I had $8. And I just got paid. I got paid every 2 weeks in town. And that was the one time in my life I thought, I don't care how hard I work, I'm going to lose this farm. And that was when I started leasing land and custom grazing other people's cattle and focusing on that grass out there. And that old guy gave me that saying, said, Greg, stay focused on something that'll eat a green blade of grass and you're going to come out of this. You're not going to believe where you're going to be at in 10 years. And you know what? He was right. He was right. So don't get down if you're in a factory job or whatever. I did it. I didn't like it, but I went to town. I worked in that job in town, and, I set goals, and I started reaching some of those goals. And I reached 50 years old. I walked away, never looked back. And you can do this. You absolutely can. And I think sometimes people need to be given some, moral support that, hey, just because you had this dream doesn't mean you can't reach it. You can. The only person that'll keep you from reaching your dream is yourself. You get down and out and you start hanging around pity parties where everybody, oh gosh, this is bad, oh, the world's coming in and all this. You're never going to get there. You're not. You're not. Have an optimistic attitude. The glass is always half full, not half empty, okay? And you can do this. Don't let anybody steal your dream. It's yours. It's yours for the taking. It's a beautiful thing about the United States. Everybody complains about the United States. Oh, it's just terrible. It's just terrible. Let me tell you something, folks. Go live in one of those foreign countries. Where Ian, I love Ian to death. It's a beautiful area, South Africa, but it's a tough area. It's a very tough area to live in. And I don't know how he's done it, but he's thrived over there because he's focused on animals, grazing grass. You think it's tough here, you go try to live over there. He calls this la-la land. He said, you all got it too easy. He said, this is the Wild West over here where we live. And so, next time you complain about how bad it is, you know what? It's not that bad. And it's only bad because you make it bad. Focus on the positive. Get out and do something positive today. Even if you can't go buy a piece of ground or rent a piece of ground right now, learn, read. Nobody can keep you from learning. Your brain is like a muscle. The more you use it, the bigger and stronger it gets. Don't forget that. Folks, I'm going to get out of here. Y'all have a good one, and hit that subscribe button on the way out, and everyone have a great day.